Bitcoin is looking more and more like a coiled spring, ready to explode upward in price. Today, we look at more data that suggests the real parabolic phase of this bull run might be imminent. Plus, we look at the hilarious and embarrassing Financial Times film on Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin that is taking Bitcoin Twitter by storm.
My teeth are pretty scarce.
And why it's a perfect example of how even now, with Bitcoin sitting pretty over six figures, we're still profoundly early. There's no question, Bitcoin is having an absolutely historic run of positive news and catalysts over the last year plus. It started with the ETF launch in January of 2024, continued with the network's forced supply halving in April, then came the US presidential run where several key candidates ran with pro-Bitcoin policies. Much of the recent run culminated in Donald Trump's election win, his inauguration, and the subsequent creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, where the White House has repeatedly said it intends to make the US the global Bitcoin superpower. And now that trade war fears have mostly subsided and new Bitcoin Treasury companies are emerging almost weekly, raising billions to acquire huge amounts of the scarcest asset on Earth, this bull run looks primed for the next leg higher. And all signs point to this one having serious legs. Now, I've got a few data points and charts to look at that reinforce this setup. First up, corporate adoption. This chart from Bitwise shows that in 2025 alone, corporate Bitcoin purchases have outpaced new supply for mining by over 3 times. Let that sink in. Corporate buyers alone are absorbing 3 times the new Bitcoin supply, and this isn't slowing down. The rise of Bitcoin Treasury companies employing the leveraged Bitcoin equity model, pioneered by Michael Saylor and his company Strategy, is accelerating. Many are now labeling this the Bitcoin Treasury cycle, with top price predictions revised well over 200K. That said, this new class of buyers introduces risk. The aggressive use of leverage means we may face a sharp correction or deleveraging event, possibly in 2026 or 2027. Some of these firms will overextend. Some will get wiped out, but others? They'll become the backbone of the next era of corporate Bitcoin strategy. Lean, well-capitalized, and built to survive the bear. So if you're a high net worth investor or business leader looking to allocate to Bitcoin the right way, with real strategy, real custody, and real education, then Swan Private is for you. Swan Private has helped thousands of investors move into Bitcoin safely and securely. With dedicated advisors, advanced custody support, and world-class research, the Swan Private team helps you build generational wealth the right way. Learn more at swan.com/private. Okay, so the next bullish chart is one from Blockware. What you're looking at is one of Bitcoin's most telling long-term indicators, the relationship between the price and the average miner break-even cost. The black line is Bitcoin's market price. The green line shows how much it costs on average to mine one Bitcoin, including electricity, hardware, and operational costs. Now look at those blue arrows on the left. Each one marks a moment when price was near break even, and each one came just before a large gap up in Bitcoin's price. Why? Because when Bitcoin trades close to the cost of production, miners are under pressure to sell to survive. But as price pulls away, like you see in the first 2 red arrows, miners become more profitable and can afford to hold. That reduces sell pressure and tightens supply, setting the stage for upwards momentum. After the 2024 halving, the break-even cost spiked, but price surged even faster. That widening gap you see in the 2 arrows on the right, that's the signal. When miners are healthy and demand keeps growing, Bitcoin doesn't just go up, it accelerates. And as you can see, we've just started that acceleration. But what if I told you even after crossing $100,000 that Bitcoin hasn't really broken out yet? This final chart shows Bitcoin priced not in dollars but in gold, the asset it's most often compared to as a store of value. And what we see is striking. In gold terms, Bitcoin is still sitting just below its 2021 highs. That means all of the fiat price action we've seen since has simply brought us back to the same place when measured in hard money terms. And that's what makes this setup so bullish. For 4 years, Bitcoin has been consolidating just below this level like a massive coiled spring. The last attempt to break through, it got denied. But now we're pressing up against that ceiling again, this time with stronger fundamentals, more institutional support, and a drastically reduced supply flow post-halving. If Bitcoin breaks out in gold terms, it won't just be another headline rally. It will signal that Bitcoin is outperforming the hardest money of the last 5,000 years. And that's following gold's historic 2025 performance. And when this happens, it's not just price discovery, it's a monetary repricing event. All right, so now that we're all deliriously bullish for the rest of the year, let's talk about why, despite all of this, we're still early. Yesterday, the Financial Times released a short documentary called Michael Saylor's $40 billion Bitcoin bet. And let me just say, it's incredible. Not because it's insightful, but because it's a masterclass in missing the point. Let's roll a few highlight clips and break it down.
The FT does this kind of light-hearted thing every year where we have a stock picking competition. And in my list of shorts, I put MicroStrategy and I got annihilated. And what I want to do is understand what it is that I'm missing here?
Okay. What are people missing about Bitcoin, and what are they missing about strategy?
This is Michael Saylor. His company, Strategy, owns more Bitcoin than any other on the planet. Right now, that's about $50 billion worth. And in the crypto world, that makes him kind of a big deal.
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy.
The man who never sells, Michael Saylor.
It's a great hook, right? Financial Times market analyst Katie Martin took on research for this film after getting absolutely wrecked in 2024, shorting Strategy stock, and finishing near last in an FT stock picking competition.
I was number 1,360 out of
I take it back. You're not a medium-sized idiot. You are a full-sized idiot.
I bombed so badly. So that was me getting roundly laughed at for coming 5th from bottom out of over 1,000 FT staff and readers in last year's FT stock picking competition. For the FT's markets columnist, that's not great. And it happened because I bet the price of shares in MicroStrategy, once a little-known software company, would fall in 2024. What actually happened was that MicroStrategy's share price increased by almost 400% in a single year, massively outperforming Nvidia, Meta, Tesla, Apple, and many, many more. That's given it a market capitalization of $100 billion, which is much more than oil giant BP. And if you're wondering how it did this, I have one word for you: Bitcoin.
So what begins looking like a market analyst doing their due diligence and research on how Strategy did so incredibly well, with a simple and aggressive Bitcoin acquisition strategy, very quickly turns into a total embarrassment for Katie and for the Financial Times.
Bitcoin is not for the faint-hearted. With no obvious use case, it's an inherently speculative bet. And by using borrowed money to buy it, Strategy has increased both the risks and the rewards. If Bitcoin's value drops, losses could be deeper, but if it rises, the gains could be even greater.
Katie repeatedly shows her ignorance on the fundamentals and value proposition of Bitcoin, even stating over and over again that she doesn't get it. She should have spent more time studying Bitcoin than MicroStrategy, as understanding the former is a prerequisite to understanding the latter. And this scarcity of her teeth moment might end up in Bitcoin meme history forever.
Bitcoin maxis like Jeff and Michael Saylor believe in the value embedded in Bitcoin because of its scarcity. I still don't get this. My teeth are pretty scarce and pretty useful, but they're not worth billions of bucks.
This clip, while obviously hilarious and endless fodder for Bitcoin memes, really underlines why she's so confused about Bitcoin. She hasn't done the work to look at Bitcoin through the lens of monetary history. And one can't blame Katie for this, as I'm sure many of you can attest to being completely ignorant to one of the paramount questions of our times. What is money? If she had, she would have quickly compared this table of monetary properties and given her teeth a proper grade, and seen that they don't hold a tooth to the hardest monies in the world in gold and Bitcoin. What I find most shocking about this documentary is that by the end of all her research, Katie even admits that she still doesn't get MicroStrategy or Bitcoin at all.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how Strategy or Bitcoin are going to perform in the future. My track record here sucks, and I genuinely have no idea. But I would argue that no one else really truly has any idea either, which is why I get nervous for retail investors like Jeff who've put all their eggs in Strategy's basket. Even with a more crypto-friendly administration in the White House, if things go south on this trade, there won't be any cavalry coming to the rescue. This is the concern I've had about Strategy all along. It's part of the reason I shorted the company in last year's FT stock picking competition. There's still a lot about this company and stock and Bitcoin that I still don't get. But hey, I've been wrong before, I can be wrong again.
At least she has the humility to admit that she may be wrong here, because she clearly is. And that's okay. I don't want to use this video as another platform to bash and pile on Katie, because this is the massive blind spot of the majority of Bitcoin skeptics, including myself and many of you watching before we went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. The vast majority of people are utterly confused by it, but instead of investing more of their time to better understand it, they double down on their ignorance through preconceived doubts and misconceptions. The only difference between the lifelong skeptic And current or future Bitcoin believers is a special kind of curiosity to fill the gaps in your understanding. And that takes humility to challenge your preconceptions and many hours of studying. Now, I'll admit I loved watching every minute of this documentary. It wasn't even painful for me to watch, it was entertaining. And it helps that it was actually very well produced and edited. It's also the perfect nod to the incredible time we are living through right now. No matter the countless tailwinds and bullish catalysts that keep stacking up for Bitcoin the last few years, it's wild to see how early we still are, and how few people are willing to put in the work to understand this monetary singularity. So rejoice in the fact that you are early, and that you're blessed enough to be one of the select few who see this life-altering technological revolution and reject the temptation to dunk on Katie and others who unapologetically don't get it yet. Try your best to be kind, patient, and compassionate towards those that are in the same position as you were before you had your life altered for the better by the revelation of Bitcoin. We have a newfound hope for the future that many in the clutches of fiat nihilism don't have. Let's try our best to be a light to those that are still living in monetary darkness. And if you want to surround yourself with others who see it too, don't miss the two most important Bitcoin events happening this year. BTC Prague is Europe's premier Bitcoin-only conference, gathering thinkers, builders, and leaders from around the world. Visit btcprague.com for more information and tickets. And in the US, BTC in DC is bringing Bitcoiners to the heart of Washington to help shape policy and signal strength. For more, visit btcindc.com. So what do you think? Will this Treasury-led bull run send Bitcoin over 200K? Will we see a major breakout of Bitcoin in gold terms this year? And are the critics like Katie Martin actually a bullish signal that we're still early? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more Bitcoin Signal. Thanks for watching, and remember, TikTok next block.